Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is Christine by Stephen King. Now, Christine was published in 1983, and it's set in a small town in Pennsylvania called Libertyville, and it revolves around a young man named Arnie Cunningham. Now, Arnie Cunningham, he's a high school student, and he's not very popular, and his only real friend is a jock named Dennis, and what happens is, one day during the summer, Arnie buys a car, and he buys it from this old man named Roland Liebe, and Liebe calls the car Christine. Now, Dennis tries to convince Arnie not to buy Christine. He thinks it's a terrible idea because the car's in terrible shape, but Arnie's convinced that he could fix the car up, and what happens is, later in the book, the owner of the car, of course, after he sells it to Arnie, the owner of the car, Roland Liebe, later dies, and what happens is, throughout the whole book, Arnie starts to change. Now, some of the changes are actually for the better, like his complexion starts to clear up, and he becomes much more confident with girls and stuff, and he actually gets a girlfriend, but what happens is, most of the changes are for the worst. Like, basically, Arnie is starting to become an entirely different person because of this car. Like, he's spending so much time with this car, and it turns out that the car is actually possessed by supernatural forces, and these forces is what's causing Arnie to change, and and throughout the whole book, you start to see Arnie, just completely turn into a different person. Like, he becomes a much more aggressive person, and he starts lashing out at his parents, his parents aren't necessarily abusive parents, but they're parents who they always told him what to do, and they were kind of repressive almost, but he starts lashing out against his parents, and he even gets involved in some criminal activity, and it's all because of this car. Now, what happens is, you find out that the car is actually possessed by the spirit of Roland Liebe, and what's happening now is Liebe is both possessing the car, and he's trying to take possession of Arnie, and he's basically turning Arnie into another version of himself. And what happens is, of course, Dennis and Arnie's girlfriend, of course, find out about this, and basically, what happens is, in the book, people who have wronged Arnie in the past start getting killed off, and it turns out that it's the car Christine being possessed by the spirit of Liebe who's killing off all the people who wronged Arnie, and basically what happens now is, Dennis and Arnie's girlfriend now are trying to stop Liebe, and the only way to destroy Liebe is to destroy the car Christine. Now Christine, now a lot of people say it's one of their favorite books by Stephen King. I know this book is held in very high regard by Stephen King fans, but I did enjoy the book, but I didn't think it was his best book. I don't think it's, one of his best, and that's mainly because, though I enjoyed most of the book, I thought it was a good book in general. I did find it to be a little slow-moving, especially the first two parts of the book were very slow, in my opinion. They were good, they were just slow, and to me, just because something's slow doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but at the same time, it was very slow, but the last quarter of the book is where it really picked up for me. I thought the last quarter of this book was freaking awesome, but the first two halves, while they weren't bad, they were very slow-moving, in my opinion, but what made them work for me was, the characters. I think the characters are really the strongest thing about this book, and I actually liked pretty much all the characters in this book. Even Arnie's parents, who at first come off as being real douchebags, because you start to see some things from their points of view, and you actually start to really like those characters, and so yeah, the characters, the book does have some really good characters, and it's a pretty well-written book. My only real complaint is it's a little slow-moving, but that's really my only complaint about the book. I do recommend the book, though I don't think it's one of Stephen King's absolute best. I do recommend the book. So yeah, that's my review on Christine by Stephen King. I hope you enjoyed the review, and bye.